About databases and design. If you've never worked with Access or even a database before, it can seem overwhelming at first to try and digest everything we're telling you. A database, as defined by the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, is a usually large collection of data organised especially for rapid search and retrieval, as by a computer. That said, picture a used car dealership in your head. If you were the owner of this dealership, you'd want to store the cars you had on your lot, the prices for each car, the make and model, and other things. You'd want information about your entire inventory. But you'd also want customer information. You'd want to know which customer bought which car, the customer's information, and so on. You'd also want to be able to sort that information on a whim. Maybe you want to pull up how many Toyotas you've sold in the past year versus Ford. Perhaps you'd want to pull up the list of customers who bought warranties that your dealership offered. When all the information you have is stored in a database, you can easily access that information. Databases are made up of a series of tables. A table is the name of the object that stores data. It's kind of like a spreadsheet, if you've worked with those before. Tables have columns, which are also known as fields, and rows, which are also known as records, that store the data that you need. A database can be small and only have one table, or it can be a large database with hundreds of tables. A record or row contains data for one particular entry in a table. Using the used car dealership, a record in the table called makes and models may represent one combination of a make and model of a car. A field or column defines what information needs to be stored, such as make, model, or construction year. Columns or fields have three basic data types: a number, which means a column only contains numbers; text, which means it can store numbers, letters, and many kinds of punctuation; date, the column can only store date and time data. The advantage of using a database instead of a spreadsheet is being able to keep the data clean and organised. This is so that data is where it needs to be, is correct, and isn't missing when you need it. Relational databases specify that data is stored in tables and they have some relationship among them. You can think of relational databases as a group of tables, each table containing data that relates to data in other tables. It helps to picture it as a web of tables that all relate to each other with the data they contain. Look at the illustration here to help picture what we're talking about. Each square here represents a table in the database. Because each table contains data that's related to data in the other tables, and all data relates to the car dealership, this would be a relational database. Now, with that explained, let's delve a little deeper. In the example here, we have 5 tables. Each table has fields or columns, and records or rows. If you've never used Access before, think of how an Excel spreadsheet looks to get the proper visualization. Different tables can have the same columns in common. This is used to specify a relation between two tables. Using our example again, perhaps all tables would have a column for make or model. The sales table would have one to refer to what sold, the customer table would have one to show which customer bought which make or model, and so on and so forth. As we said, all of our tables may have a column or field for make or model. They all share this column. This relationship allows us to specify that we have a certain make or model, we've sold this make or model, and the names of customers who bought it. This is also known as a MasterDetail relationship. In this type of relationship, a single master record, such as Ford Taurus, can have many detail records, such as how many were sold, which customers bought that, and so on. It's possible for a master record to exist without details. However, it is not possible for detail records to exist without a master record. Each table also has a special column called the key. This key is used to identify rows or records. The values entered under a key column can't be duplicated. It's a unique identification. For a car dealership, it may be the VIN number or a customer account number. As you fill in rows or records in the table, the key cannot be duplicated in any of the other rows or records. The primary key of the relational table gives a unique identification to each record in the table. It's a normal attribute that is known to be unique, such as social security number or account number. You will not be allowed to enter duplicate primary keys within a database table. It's also used interchangeably with the word key, so primary key and key are both unique identifiers for the table, but it's more commonly referred to as the primary key. A foreign key is a field in a relational table that is a match for a primary key of another table. It can be used to cross-reference tables. For example, perhaps a customer's account number is used as the primary key in Table 1. Perhaps their phone number is used as the primary key in Table 2, but their account number is also used in that table. That is the foreign key. As you create tables within a database in Access, each table must have a primary key. Foreign keys are only used when linking to other tables, which we'll discuss later in this course. Different but related types of data are stored in tables in the database. Whenever you look at data using a query, and it combines data from different tables into a result table, it's called a join. If you have multiple joins in a query, it can reduce performance, but often it's necessary. As you're going to see, creating a database in Access is very easy to do. However, creating a good relational database that performs well isn't so easy. Here are some tips to help you. Distribute information in multiple tables. This way, as your database grows, your efficiency isn't reduced. If you want to make a database of books, for example, don't list all the information about books in one table. Instead, create a few, some for author and genre and so on. Select a good primary key. Remember, the primary key should be unique. Each table has its own primary key, and these tables must reference each other by a foreign key. Index all fields that are used as search criteria. We'll talk about this later in the course. The process of designing a good database to meet guidelines is called normalization. We'll discuss this later in the course, as we don't need to know the details of this topic at the moment.